Imagine waking up tomorrow and forgetting where you parked your car. A few years later, you forget your neighbor's name, then your favorite recipe, then your grandchildren's birthdays. Eventually, you look into the eyes of someone you've loved for 50 years, and you no longer know who they are. This is Alzheimer's disease, but it doesn't happen overnight. It begins silently. 10, 15, sometimes even 20 years before the very first symptom appears. Deep inside the brain, billions of neurons are slowly changing. Connections disappear, proteins accumulate, cells stop communicating, and memories slowly fade away. Today, we are going to shrink down and travel inside the human brain to witness how Alzheimer's disease develops cell by cell and explore the cutting-edge science that is finally fighting back. Before Alzheimer's begins, let's explore a healthy brain. Inside your skull right now are approximately 86 billion neurons. Each one forms thousands of connections called synapses. Every memory, every conversation, every emotion you experience depends on these neurons communicating almost instantly across this massive, complex network. One of the most important hubs in this network is the hippocampus. Think of the hippocampus as your brain's memory librarian. It helps transform today's transient experiences into tomorrow's permanent memories. Because of its high energy demand and constant rewiring, the hippocampus is uniquely vulnerable to what happens next. By the time someone notices they're having memory problems, Alzheimer's may have been quietly operating in the background for decades. Scientists point to one of the earliest changes involving a protein called beta amyloid. Normally, beta amyloid is produced during routine cellular functions and then simply cleared away. But in Alzheimer's disease, these protein fragments begin sticking together. They form small, toxic clusters that eventually become hard, insoluble plaques between the neurons. These plaques block the electrical signals jumping across synapses. Imagine trying to make a phone call, but every telephone line is slowly being cut. Because the hippocampus is one of the first regions affected, early Alzheimer's typically destroys recent memories first, while older childhood memories remain untouched. But amyloid plaques are only the beginning. Inside the neuron itself, another protein called tau is changing. In a healthy cell, tau acts like the railroad ties holding together microscopic tracks. These tracks transport essential nutrients down the length of the cell. In Alzheimer's, the tau proteins become modified and detach. They twist into neurofibrillary tangles. Without tau holding them together, the nutrient tracks collapse. The neuron begins starving, waste builds up, and the cell ultimately dies. Amyloid starts the fire, but tau is the executioner. As billions of neurons die off, entire brain regions actually shrink. The grooves of the brain widen. The hippocampus becomes noticeably smaller. The disease then spreads into areas responsible for language, reasoning, navigation, and personality. The physical weight of the brain can decrease by 10 to 15%. But here is where the story takes a fascinating turn. Scientists have performed autopsies on people who died in their 90s with perfectly sharp memories, only to discover their brains were completely filled with the plaques and tangles of advanced Alzheimer's. How is that possible? Medical researchers call this cognitive resilience. These individuals built up so much cognitive reserve over their lifetimes through complex careers, learning new languages, playing instruments, and rich social lives that their brains created a highly dense, redundant network of synapses. When the disease blocked one neural highway, their brains simply rerouted the memories through a backup road. They essentially built a brain that was plaque-resistant. For decades, we could only confirm Alzheimer's pathology after death, or with incredibly expensive brain scans. But right now, we are living through a diagnostic revolution. A highly accurate blood test measuring a protein called p-tau217 is completely changing the game. This simple blood draw can detect the earliest whispers of Alzheimer's in the bloodstream, potentially predicting cognitive decline up to 20 years before symptoms start.
And for the first time in history, we actually have disease-modifying therapies to offer some of these patients. Drugs like lecanemab and donanemab are monoclonal antibodies that successfully clear amyloid plaques from the brain. To be clear, they are not a cure. They come with serious risks of brain swelling and bleeding, and they require intensive MRI monitoring. But they are a crucial foothold.
They slow down the rate of cognitive decline by 20 to 35% in early-stage patients. Looking forward, scientists are testing entirely new classes of drugs that target neuroinflammation, metabolic dysfunction, and even clear out toxic, aging zombie cells from the brain. The future of treatment will likely be a personalized cocktail of therapies. Yet, you don't have to wait for a prescription to protect your brain. A massive review by the Lancet Commission on Dementia found that modifying specific lifestyle factors can realistically prevent or delay up to 45% of global dementia cases. The single largest modifiable risk factor in midlife might surprise you. It is untreated hearing loss. When your hearing declines, your brain uses massive amounts of cognitive energy just to decode sounds, leaving fewer resources for memory. Treating hearing loss with hearing aids significantly reduces this cognitive strain. Physical exercise is another powerful weapon. When you do aerobic exercise, you increase blood flow and stimulate the release of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. BDNF is essentially miracle-grow for your brain, promoting the growth of new neural connections. Then there is sleep. During deep sleep, the brain activates the glymphatic system. Your brain cells literally shrink, allowing cerebrospinal fluid to wash through and flush out metabolic waste, including beta-amyloid proteins. Chronic poor sleep deprives your brain of this critical nightly wash cycle. Diet matters too. Eating a Mediterranean or MIND diet, rich in leafy greens, berries, fish, and olive oil, protects your blood vessels. Because the brain relies on an intricate network of microscopic capillaries, managing your blood pressure, cholesterol, and blood sugar ensures your neurons aren't starved of oxygen. What we have learned over the last few years is that our genetics are not necessarily our destiny. Even if you carry genes that increase your risk, your daily habits act as a powerful buffer. If global lifestyle interventions could delay the onset of Alzheimer's symptoms by just 5 years, the overall prevalence of the disease would be cut in half. Tiny protein changes might begin silently in the brain, but so does your defense against them. Every walk you take, every healthy meal you eat, every night of quality sleep. Every conversation, every puzzle, every book you read. All of it helps build a stronger, more resilient brain for the future. Protecting your memory doesn't begin at age 70. It begins today.